Have you ever seen Shrek? Somebody once told me about Andrew, who just quit the job that he really hated. He couldn't take his overbearing boss with such restrictive creativity, so he left his job and ended up hanging out with his self-employed friends. After wasting a few weeks away on the couch and asking each other what they wanted to do, finally Andrew brought up this game that he overheard a couple of coworkers talking about. This weird fantasy board game called Dungeons and Dragons. His friends are intrigued and want to know more, but Andrew doesn't really know much about it and he's only overheard things about it. He describes it where it's like a game where you play a character and you roll dice to do stuff. And then they're like, so it's like improv, but with dice. He's like, yeah, pretty much. So without a rule book or character sheets or any knowledge at all about D&D, the group plays D&D. Now, the thing is, when the group was talking about how it was a fantasy game, they weren't thinking fantasy along the lines of Lord of the Rings. They were thinking more Disney fairy tale fantasy. Princesses, Goldilocks, talking animals, that kind of fantasy. Cameron was really into this idea and wanted to be a princess locked away in a tower. And then there was Michael, who was more into the idea of subverting fantasy tropes, so he wanted to play an ogre, a recluse that just wanted to chill in the swamp. It was a really novel idea for the players to imagine what the day-to-day routine of a man-eating ogre would be. And then there was Eddie, who was playing a talking donkey, which was really just an excuse to workshop his stand-up routine with his friends. Andrew mostly improvises a plot for the characters to go on, just shamelessly throwing in recognizable fantasy creatures, purely to just annoy Michael into going on quests. He just wanted to chill in his swamp, but Andrew was like, no, I'm gonna send fantasy creatures to annoy you until you go do something. He doesn't have to worry about Eddie. He knows Eddie's gonna follow along with whatever Michael is doing. They eventually make it to the villain / quest giver, which Andrew not so loosely bases on his former boss, just releasing all the pent-up frustration that he had built up. They walk in on a tournament happening and Michael rolls a nat 20 to beat up all the knights. There wasn't any combat or anything. Michael just said, I want to fight all of the knights, rolled, got a natural 20, and then he was like, okay, you beat up all the knights. This prompts the villain to send Shrek on a quest to go rescue Cameron. Andrew just kind of takes the backstory of Cameron's character and makes it the plot for the adventure. Cameron could easily just break out of the castle if she really wanted to, but Cameron is set on being rescued. She is a princess, and princesses are rescued by heroes, and that's what her mind is set on. So the other players begrudgingly go to rescue her. During the little travel montage that the characters have to go to rescue Cameron, Michael's been thinking a lot about his character. He's a novelist, so he gets really into like the character development. So he spends a lot of time fleshing out his character's goals, their fears, their backstory. He's going full community theater actor, trying to give his character depth, and then Eddie is just there cracking jokes. Then Mike gets frustrated because no one cares about the development he's giving his character. Andrew throws together the whole castle encounter. Eddie gets a natural 20 to seduce the dragon, which leads to some very rescuing Cameron's character. Then later, Eddie's character from the dragon was a blast for the players, and it was a lot of fun because Cameron spent most of the time making fun of Mike for being a bad dragon slayer. Cameron is pretty into role-playing her character as like your classic by-the-book fairy tale storybook princess. So Eddie and Mike are like, we are not telling her that my character's an ogre, she would flip. It's pretty hard for veteran players to keep secrets from other players, so the secret really easily slips out, and then, you know, Cameron's all appalled that she was saved by a brutish ogre. This is all starting to annoy Mike in real life, so he asked the DM, can I just pick up Cameron's character and just get going? He rolls like a 19, Cameron rolls low, so he just picks her up and gets moving. And then this starts to annoy Cameron in real life. But you see, Cameron's a smart woman. When Cameron got annoyed that her character could just get overpowered like that, she started thinking. And then she did the unthinkable. She started going through the player's handbook. She started looking around for possible solutions, ways to make her character more powerful, and began The Descent into min-maxing. While Cameron was flipping through the book, Mike was continuing his focus on developing his character. I mean, Mike is going full-blown community theater actor with the development that he's giving his character. I mean, he's giving full-on monologues to Eddie, who is sitting there awkwardly as, you know, Mike's development starts to bleed a little bit into his real-life feelings. Cameron's listening to this while she's on the player's handbook on her phone, and when she hears how sensitive Mike has been about this Shrek character, who she thought it was a joke character, but now she's like, oh wow, he's taking this really seriously. And so she decides, I'm going to be a little bit more respectful, I'm going to be a little less abrasive intentionally. In order to fill out more of the session, Andrew, this is more than a one-shot, by the way. This is over a course of a few sessions. So in order to fill out this current session, Andrew throws in like a Robin Hood encounter. I mean, video games have random encounters, so why not throw a random encounter in this D&D game? And that's when Cameron reveals what all that reading she did was for. Cameron's princess was a 3rd level open-handed monk with a 20 dexterity. Keep in mind that the other players don't have character sheets, they just kind of roll to do things, so the idea of having a +7 modifier rolling over a 20 and dealing damage, they thought her character was super overpowered when really it was just like a by-the-book standard character. When she got started, she was saying things that none of the other players understood, like key points and flurry of blows, 21 to hit for 9 points of damage. What are you talking about? The numbers sounded big, including Andrew, by the way. Andrew was totally involved in just not understanding how combat works, but it sounded like she was rolling super high, so she was like, yeah, you clobber all of the merry men in Robin Hood. Everyone was really impressed, but not impressed enough to actually want to read the book. And like, of course, Cameron had a lot of fun clobbering the ambush and everything like that. But she saw how much fun Mike was having, developing his character, giving the character depth, and she was like, I kind of want some of that. So she thought, what if my character was cursed to be an ogre at night? So by day she was a princess, and by night she was an ogre. There was this like character duality, Jekyll and Hyde. She was really excited to show Mike what she did with her new character, but Mike was really pissed off because Mike was like, come on, playing an ogre's my thing. Mike thought that Cameron was trying to steal his idea of playing an ogre, so he got real life mad at her. This brought down the vibe immensely at the table. Everyone was like, oh man, Mike is really pissed. Let's just wrap this up. Let's just quickly finish the story. And so that's what happens. The princess is sent off to be married, and then Mike is like, my character goes back to the swamp and I'm gonna go back to living alone and I'm gonna just be by myself as I always wanted to be. But then once that happens, once Mike finally got what his character wanted, which was to be peaceful and alone in a swamp, it just doesn't feel right at the table. They're like, this is not how we want to end things. The main person who talks about this is not how we want to end things is Eddie. Eddie's like, we can't finish something like this. We spend so much time doing this. We have to end this on a high note. Eddie's the one who convinces Mike to go back and save the princess, but Mike is like, how are we going to do that? She's already getting married. And Eddie's like, I don't know if you remember, but my girlfriend is kind of a dragon. Let's just ride the dragon into the wedding. These two were focused on character development, and Eddie was focused on what really mattered, which was the memes. And what memes get you is riding your dragon girlfriend into a wedding that you are going to crash. Mike crashes the wedding, he and Cameron have a theater major moment and have their characters smooch. And Eddie has his dragon girlfriend eat the main villain, because ain't no way this group is going to do a single combat encounter. That was the Shrek campaign. This video was requested by a commenter who deleted their comment, presumably out of shame. I responded threatening to make this video once the channel hit 1,000 subscribers. And even though the comment was deleted, I wanted to make good on my threats. So here is this video where I am character bounding as Shrek. I'm surrounded by green lights. I'm just gonna regret all of my life decisions while the patrons flash on the screen. Thank you, patrons, for spending money on these videos. Patreon is a great way to just give me general support. If you like these videos and want to see them more frequently, then you should check out the Patreon and maybe consider pledging. It would help me out a lot. It's not that much a month, but like, you know, people's financial situations are different. I also run D&D for my patrons, so If you want to join a West Marches campaign with city intrigue and a bunch of different quest lines, then that's also something. If not, then subscribing, liking the video, all that is also another way that you can support me.